Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's immediately relevant webinar powered by Aurora Solar, How to Sell Solar Remotely in the Era of Social Distancing. I'm Tim Sylvia, Associate Editor of PV Magazine USA, and I will be your moderator today. So, as we know, we are in trying times. No one is entirely sure what is going on to the virus, and that is why we are here today. We want to make sure that your sales practices are to meet their full potential during these changing times, and we want to show you the way that you can get the most out of sales during these changing times. And by we, I don't mean myself, because you guys signed up to hear the experts, and wonderful experts they are, because I am joined today by Mittal Stotland, a senior solar energy consultant with Baker Electric Home Energy, and Elliot Goldstein, an account executive with Aurora Solar. And they are going to help you quell that uncertainty. So, like I said, they're the experts, I'm not. So without further ado, I will hand it over to them.
Thank you so much, Tim. My name is Elliot Goldstein, and thank you all for taking time out of your day to be with us. I'm calling in from my home office in Berkeley, where a stay-at-home order is in effect for the entire state of California. In fact, our entire Aurora team is doing all of our work remotely, and we're communicating daily via Slack and Zoom-based meetings. And as Tim mentioned, we were originally going to lead a webinar on a different topic today, but with current events, we were getting a lot of inquiries on how to sell solar remotely, so we've pivoted quickly. Now, you may have heard from some of your customers that in this era of social distancing, they may be hesitant to hold an in-person meeting. And for the pipeline of customers that may have already tried to cancel that in-home appointment, now is the time to move to remote selling. We understand the urgency of the moment and that a quick transition to remote selling presents a real challenge for companies that have historically relied on door knocking and in-home selling. Consider today's webinar an introduction to this crucial topic. Aurora is going to be hosting a series of these webinars, creating playbooks and workshops based on feedback and learnings from top leaders in our industry. The good news, and there is good news, the technology and sales methods for successful remote selling exist, and many of our installers at Aurora are already employing an inside sales approach. There can be major benefits to remote selling under any circumstances, which include reduced travel times, increased territories, rapid scalability, and lower customer acquisition costs, just to name a few. So again, my name's Elliot Goldstein, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, Aurora did hire me with this mustache. And I've been personally selling inside sales for the last 7 years, 3 of which I spent selling residential solar as a sales team lead at Sungevity, where I helped over 450 homeowners go solar over the phone and computer. I've led and trained a team of solar consultants where we sold across 16 different states. And I personally love the freedom of being able to sell anywhere from the comfort of my office. I'm very pleased to be joined today by veteran solar consultant, Mittal Stotland, who's calling in from her home in Oceanside, California. Mittal has a breadth of experience working in residential solar since 2009. She's been riding the solar coaster for 11 years, where she's worked for both national installers like Solar City and Tesla, and local installers. She's now at Baker Electric Home Energy in Southern California, where she's done both in-home and remote sales. We're really happy to have you with us today, Mittal. Now, for those that aren't already familiar with Aurora, Aurora is the industry's leading all-in-one design and sales software that'll take you from an address to a proposal. Aurora's accuracy when we're selling remotely is really the name of the game, so you can be confident in your design and savings that you're presenting. And that's what separates Aurora from other sales and design software on the market today. Now I'm going to hand it over to Mittal.
Thank you, Elliot. I am so honored to be here on this webinar today, and also very pleased to be representing Baker Electric Home Energy. We've been in business for over 80 years as an electrical and solar contractor and an Aurora Enterprise customer since 2018. We've made it through World War II, different economic recessions, and we're pivoting really quickly so that we can be of service in this time of global change.
Thanks, Maytal. And this is really, in this unprecedented moment, having a veteran organization like Baker Electric Home Energy with over 80 years of experience. Know you've already weathered many storms. So today, what we're going to do is cover the anatomy of a remote sales process. You've probably heard and thought a lot about remote sales and may not be sure where to start. So we've broken this down into 4 steps, which we'll focus on today. Number 1, how to start building a remote sales process that instills trust from the get-go, sets proper expectations, and strikes the right messaging for today's rapidly changing landscape. Number 2, cover some of the essential technologies you need to hold a dynamic presentation and sell with confidence. 3, tips to adjust your sales pitch and connect with your customers remotely. And finally, how to close the deal remotely and handle most common objections, which probably stems from a lack of certainty that we all share. Now, this topic is bigger than the 30 minutes that we have to cover it today. We will be providing additional resources at the end, and we look forward to your questions as well. Our first topic is on setting up a remote sales process, where trust begins with your online presence, including your website and your reviews. Maytal, let's look at Baker Electric's homepage right now. I love that it says it's business as unusual. And you're really setting the right message right now that's saying, yes, this is a very weird situation, but we are still operating and we're here to help. And when I click on this link on your homepage, it takes me to this landing page that sets a clear message that your customers' health and comfort are a top priority and are happening in all of your operations. And this is really a time that saving money is more important than ever. Can you talk more about this campaign?
Yes, we pivoted really quickly to start this campaign. We know that people are home and their bills are going to go up and up. And we just wanted to acknowledge that we want to protect our customers' health and give them the option to host a video conference rather than an in-person meeting. We believe that will help to continue to build the trust that we have between us and our consumers. We also wanted to give them an option. If they don't want to do a video conference, we can do text, we can do email, we can do phone, and we can do FaceTime. We're facile with all of those different modalities.
I like how you're talking about meeting the customer wherever they are. So if they're more comfortable first engaging with a text, or maybe it's email, clearly if that goes well, you want to move them into a presentation, a virtual screen share ideally. So let's say that a homeowner books an online appointment. How do you prepare for that remote sales appointment?
Well, preparation is vital, just like when you were doing in the field consultations. In my previous career, I used to be a teacher, and there's a saying, it's fail to prepare, prepare to fail. I'm sure that's not just a teaching saying, but it stands true with remote sales as well. You want to see if you can get a copy of their electric bill ahead of time. You also want to have an email prepared that gives the customer directions on how to get you pictures of their electrical panel. What exactly is it in their electrical panel that you're looking for? Have it be detailed and easy to use. Another thing, if you're just starting out at remote selling, is pick a platform that you are comfortable with, whether it's Zoom, GoToMeeting, Microsoft Teams, and find the least tech-savvy person in your life. They're available right now, most likely. See if you can't send them a video conference link. And if you can walk that person through getting the video conference downloaded onto their computer, successfully launched, you are good to go. So try it first with a person in your life. Once you've mastered that, you're good to go. Second, if you're trying it out with a customer and they're just not getting it, they're getting frustrated, just scrap the video conference. Go to plan B. It could be FaceTime on your phone. It could be WhatsApp. It could be over the phone, and then you pass all of the documents and the design snippets over email. There's all these other ways that you can conduct the meeting if the customer is getting frustrated with the video conference.
Yeah, I love that you can send a link beforehand, setting the right expectation. And, right now, if you are asking the customer to send you a picture of their electrical bill and electrical panel or their bill, and they're actually responding, it's clear that that customer is engaged and it's a hot lead. If the customer isn't ready to do that, you can always estimate a consumption profile in Aurora, generate it based on their zip code, and gather that electrical panel information after they've expressed interest in working with your company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always have that as an option for plan B.
So let's talk more about technologies. You mentioned sending out a meeting link beforehand. What are some technologies that have worked for you and that you currently use?
Well, I've been using Zoom for some time now, so I'm very familiar with it, and I can use it almost blindly. But there's several out there. So there's Zoom, there's GoToMeeting, there's Google Hangout, there's Google Duo, which is, by the way, the video conference that my 8-year-old is using. There's Microsoft Teams. There's so many. Find one, learn it, be comfortable with it. Also, put that camera on. Be ready to go. Be suited up. Have your hair combed. Be in your company's uniform. That'll paint the picture for the customer to know who they're talking to, and it'll also help them to be comfortable to turn their camera on. And that way you can pick up on some of their physical cues. We all know when somebody's not understanding kind of what their face looks like. So it's always good if they have their camera on and you can then pick up on some of those physical cues as well.
That makes sense. I mean, building trust when someone can see you, you have that experience. I also love that some of these tools like Zoom, they have a virtual background, so you don't need to worry about cleaning everything up. That can be a nice feature to use right now. And so let's talk about remote design software. That's also essential if you're selling remotely right now. What's your experience been like here?
Well, we've been using Aurora for some time now, and that's been working very well right now as we're transitioning into remote sales, mainly because it gives the customer something to focus in on. So if you're doing that video conference, you can share your screen and you can co-design their system just like you would at the kitchen table. So it's just essential. It's a great tool to have when you're designing and selling remotely.
So I like what I'm hearing as far as the consulting with the customer. The visuals help anchor that vision of where solar is going to go on their roof. It sounds like you're actually sharing your screen, showing the Aurora application. I know when I've talked to our clients at Aurora that whether you're offering a performance guarantee or you're just right now guessing about what's that height of the tree like or the pitch of the roof, LiDAR is a 3D data set that Aurora has in it based on a point cloud where lasers have been fired down and taking measurements. And I like actually explaining that to homeowners, building that confidence in this is how we know what the pitch of your roof is. and the height of that tree. So that's definitely one of these things that can instill trust from afar. And another one of these areas that I hear a lot of positive feedback from is on our NearMap integration, where you can have up-to-date imagery. So do you ever have a customer that has, done a remodel in the last few months or has removed that tree? How do you use this kind of feature, Maytal?
Well, whenever I bring up their home, I show them the date of when that image was taken, and it's always a wow factor. Wow, that's a really recent image, honey. Look, that's your trailer right there. And it just gives the customer this sense that your company has access to the best technology and the best tools, and it just starts to paint the picture of, okay, this company knows what they're doing and they're going to handle our project really smoothly. So yes, I love that. Always show them when the picture was taken, to show them that, hey, yes, this is your current roof line and it's the most up-to-date picture that's available.
That makes sense. And you were talking about painting that picture. I love the effect, which is Aurora's sun path and a radiance map here. It's definitely a best practice to create the 3D model of the site before starting the appointment with the homeowner. This, you can see, is a permit quality model, and the user in Aurora can either create this themselves, or Aurora has a service where we'll do the modeling for you and get that back to you in under 3 hours. And I think Baker uses this service.
Yes, we do. And it makes my job much easier. And when I show up in that video conference and their house is already modeled and every roof space is already measured, and we know what type of light each roof space is getting, it really gives the customer this sense that you're not just a one-man show. You have a whole team of people and you've already come prepared for this video conference.
Mm-hmm. And so in Aurora, you're sharing your screen. Of course, you can create a PDF proposal and present off of that. But it sounds like you're actually sharing your screen on the design view and showing how in one screen you can switch between production and then click to utility bill savings. So how do you talk about this on a screen share like Zoom?
Well, so these two windows here, the production and the offset and the electrical bill savings, that's going to be, those are always really exciting for customers. That's what they want to see. The production offset, before this time, people want a buffer of power. They want to do more air conditioning. They want to put in an electric vehicle. Maybe they're looking to put in a spa in their backyard. So when you show them, hey, this system does 130% or 120%, it gives them that really warm and fuzzy feeling. And that's going to be true for right now, as people want to have plenty of what they need at their home. So when you show them your solar system will give you more than enough power for what you're looking for, I think that's going to make people feel really good and very comfortable. Now, as far as the electric bill savings, I think we're going to be moving from cash purchasing to payment purchasing. And people are wanting to save any amount of money, even if it's $10 a month. Hey, that's $10 more than they had previously. So that electric bill savings window is going to show you, okay, this is going to be your savings, as people are starting to be more on a budget than they typically would have needed to be before this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, controlling budgets right now, and even if you're only saving $10, having a predictable bill is key moving forward in uncertain economic times. So that makes a lot of sense. And just so people know what we're looking at here, this is the savings off of the utility bill, and then Aurora will then generate the financing and calculate that financing and pricing in Aurora as well, and put that into the proposal. So I like how you're actually consulting with the homeowner right here in the design view. That is a best practice that we're hearing can really increase conversion rates. And let's say the homeowner is ready to go and sign up. You mentioned a e-signing tool. Which one have you been using, and do you have any best practices for remote selling on that?
Well, we've been using DocuSign for a really, really long time. I think a lot of companies have already pivoted to remote signatures rather than paper signatures. But if you haven't already, now is a good time to get into that practice. You can read the agreement remotely with the customer through DocuSign. You can show them where they need to sign. You can answer questions about the agreement remotely through DocuSign. And then it all automatically comes back to your organization, and the customer also gets a copy of it as well. So DocuSign, and there are other remote signing tools also. So find one that you like and that you're comfortable with, and you'll be off and running.
Right, right. And also being able to know what the customer is signing on, whether it's a tablet, a phone, or a computer. When I was explaining remotely, here's what you click through. It's a little different per device, so it's good to know what they're on there. And so let's transition here and talk about the actual sales conversation itself and some recommendations to how to change a sales pitch, especially during this time of the coronavirus remote selling period. What are some recommended changes you'd make?
Well, there are some advantages and some disadvantages to selling remotely right now. If you're in this job and you're a solar consultant, odds are you're pretty energetic, charismatic, and likable. That's probably why you have this job. And usually you go to a house, somebody opens the door, and they know almost instantly if they like you or not. So all of that type of chemistry is now gone. And they're going to make that decision when they start to talk to you on the phone. And that's where you get to use your tone of voice and your manner and your listening style over the phone. That's going to give them that comfort and whether they like you or not. Another advantage is that you can now have an outline and a skeleton of the solar consultation that you're wanting to read right next to you. So you can have your notes, whereas at the kitchen table, it's a little awkward to have your notes right next to you. Now you can have a bunch of notes right next to you and use that to your advantage. If you're comfortable, get that camera going. That's going to be great. That's going to show the person what you look like, and it's going to have them be comfortable to turn their camera on. You want to have a calm tone of voice, but also still be excited and energized about the product, because that's what transfers over in your relationship with your customer. You want them to be excited about it as well. And at the same time, everybody's working from home right now. Even Jimmy Fallon, he's doing the Tonight Show from home. His kids are doing the Tonight Show with him. It's okay to say, hey, I'm working from home and I might have a kid come in here and ask me for a fig bar in the middle of our appointment. That's okay. You're going to be human to your customer. They're going to appreciate it. And probably they're going to open up to you about what life is like for them right now. And that's only going to be an advantage and great for you. So give yourself a break, but still be professional. Make sure you address all of their motivations and all of their objections as well.
Yeah, I think the key here of empathizing with the moment, people really have a lot of uncertainty that we're all processing. One of the things about solar to take control over, this is a moment where there's so much out of our control, but we can take control over our energy costs. And that's what solar allows people to do. So I think really anchoring in that, and especially when we start talking about any fear and how they're handling this, redirecting it into the conversation about solar is a certainty, and it's a good thing to anchor on. I also really like, Maytal, how you're talking about creating a structured outline. Now is a great time if you don't have a script, you've been going on just autopilot and muscle memory there, good time to write it down and practice it because it is going to be a little different on the phone and computer. And if you're a sales leader on this call and your team's been operating autonomously in the field and you're just like, hey, if they're doing well, they're on their own, it's a good time to shadow and record calls and share calls that went well so you can all grow as a team and get that feedback. So,
yes, and if you're very brave, you could listen to your own recordings if you're an energy consultant out there and want to get better. But
totally.
I personally am not that brave. But anyone out there who wants to do it, go for it.
It's a best practice for sure to listen to your calls, listen to your at-bats. And let's transition here to our final topic of today's webinar, which is on closing the sale. And this experience of closing sales can be different over the phone and computer than in person. And it's especially different in this moment. So what are the top recommendations you have for closing in today's environment?
Well, a lot of the same things that we needed to do to close still stand true. So I think a lot of us have the urge to go through the whole sales consultation and then say, okay, well, I'll check in with you next week. You want to resist that temptation now because it's going to be there. It's going to be so tempting to go through the whole thing and then say, okay, I'll give you a call tomorrow because, you know, they're going to be home tomorrow. No, you have to go through the whole thing, be super thorough, and then ask your closing question, whatever it may be. Mine is, would you like us to start working on your project? Whatever your closing question may be, let it roll off your tongue. You're always going to get a goodie after you ask it. Either they're going to tell you no and what needs to happen before they can tell you yes, or they're going to tell you yes and congratulations. You just kept your crews employed. So always ask the question. There's no downside into asking for the business. Also, there's only so much our marketing departments can do right now. We have to be telling our customers about our referral programs. They're going to want to refer us. They're connecting with their family and friends. They're looking for things to talk about. Let them talk about how great you are and let them know what your referral program is at least 3 times during the course of your energy consultation. And another thing is be ready with a payment plan. I think a lot of us in the solar industry have been selling cash the last couple of years. It's been a wonderful land of cash. And now I think we need to remember what it was like to sell during the recession and how much people really wanted to do the no money out of your pocket option with the monthly payment. And that monthly payment will be tempting for people as their utility bill keeps coming in. Even if it's not a whole lot less than their current utility, it'll still be tempting to move over to a solid structured payment plan that isn't on a variable rate.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure not to assume that people are not going to want to do this because we're all on lockdown and we're all quarantined. There's so many people that have been putting this off because they don't have the time to think about it or to talk to their other decision maker about it. And now they will have the time to talk to their other decision maker, and they will have time to talk to you about it. So, you know, referrals, ask for the business and be ready with a really nice payment plan for them. And then if you have some time on your hands and you want to hone your negotiating skills, a really good book is by the FBI negotiator, Chris Voss. He wrote this book called Never Split the Difference. negotiating as if your life depended on it. And I read that book, and I think I even read it 2 times. It's a great book. It gives you a lot of closing skills, and it's got some good stories in it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one of the benefits right now is we know people are home, and the common objection of, well, I need to talk to my spouse, my wife, my husband. Great, they're right there. Let's get her on the phone. Let's get him on the phone. It's certainly one of these moments here, and people do have a lot of time, so that makes sense. Now, even though they do have time, though, I think a lot of people are probably feeling that this moment with certain uncertainties are giving out this common objection. I'm sure a lot of you listening have already been getting this, but now is not a good time. Maytal, what would you say to someone just throwing out this noise that now is not a good time?
Well, I would just get into their world a little bit about what they're going through. Get a couple layers deep into that. I mean, obviously, it's not a good time. What specifically is bothering this customer? Is it the cash outlay? Then maybe a payment plan would offer it. Is it their fear of people coming to their home? Well, then tell them about what type of safety policy and safety training your crews and your surveyors have had. So dig a little bit deep. Make sure, though, that you have that relationship already established before you start asking them about, okay, what needs to happen? What kind of circumstances need to change for you to feel comfortable to move forward? And you can always ask them, how would you like me to follow up with you? Can I give you a call in a few days to check in and see how you're doing? Unless they say, don't call me, I'm not interested, you should have some methodology of how you're going to follow up with them, whether it's just an informational drip or it's a phone call in a few days, every week, et cetera, et cetera.
That makes sense. I mean, right now, tenacity is key, because if you push, I imagine some people that are already feeling overwhelmed could just shut down, but being able to dig in and really align with them and then following up, they're going to still get that electric bill, and it's going to go up since we're all home more, heating more, cooking more. So that makes a lot of sense.
I have an elderly couple who has a very bad autoimmune condition, and they were just about ready to go and then said, we're putting it off. Well, I'm definitely going to give them a call every week, not to talk about solar, just to see how they're doing and how they're faring, to maintain the relationship. And then sooner or later, they'll be ready and comfortable enough to resume their solar project.
So yeah, if we're not having a clear follow-up game, now is the time to build those relationships, make them very human. Thank you, Maytal, for all of your insights today. And this really is a remarkable time we're all living through, but this will pass. And ours is an industry that grew quickly during the uncertain time of the Great Recession. We've weathered a ton of whiplash policy changes, different tariffs. So I know we will survive this and come out stronger. And thank you all for your time and attention today. We look forward to your questions and connecting after this webinar. Our contact information is here on this slide. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And Tim, I'm going to hand it back to you for questions.
Thank you, Elliot. That was a great call to action there at the end. We will come out stronger. And we do have a fair few bunch of audience questions, so let's jump right into it. First one, very simple. This is for you, Elliot. They want to know if Aurora is only available in the US or if it's more global than that. They're specifically asking about the Caribbean, but I'm sure you can handle that.
Yeah, so Aurora is a software that works all over the world. And in places that, like the Caribbean, we have a lot of customers. One of the best practices there is also using drones as well. But it does work right outside of the box anywhere in the world. And if you're calling in from the Caribbean, Africa, India, Australia, South America. We have customers on every continent.
And then following up again with you, Elliot, what is the cost of that LiDAR imaging?
So LiDAR is included in Aurora's premium licenses, and all of our pricing information is available on our website. And we're standing by to answer more questions and make sure that we can answer more about what's included in the Aurora licensing.
Okay. There was also a question asked if the modeling works for surfaces that are not rooftops, like a backyard or a driveway.
So doing a carport or ground mount, something like this, yes, Aurora works for any sort of design, whether you're putting it on a roof or if you're putting it on doing a solar farm. We also do commercial solar, commercial and industrial solar as well, up to about 10 megawatts per design. So that's something that, if you're calling, I assume most of you are in the residential space right here, but if you're doing a lot of backyard ground mounts or carports, yes, you can do that.
All right, and our next question is going to go to Matal. They were asking that sometimes customers don't see, high enough monthly savings to the point where they want to justify taking a loan if, they're not going to see monthly returns that they think are high enough. How do you overcome this?
Well, one of the things you can show them is how your utility has increased rates over time. And just the cost of inflation is 3%, whereas your solar payment will not increase. So they will have a savings. They might be happy they did it 3, 5, 7 years down the road. So just if their utility goes up with the cost of inflation, that's one way that they'll save money. Number two, there are other motivations besides savings that people do it. Energy security, if they're integrating a battery, or if they want to buy clean energy, or if they want to appreciate the value of their home. Those are all other reasons why people would go solar. When you're in the discovery section of your consultation, you really want to get all of the motivations that a customer might have, and as well as all of their objections that they might have. And you'll find that there are more reasons than just savings that pulls people to do this.
Right. That makes perfect sense. It's just one of the many facets that people would look to install.
Yeah, Tim, I would add in here, Tim, around really having that control and predictability of your bill. If you're selling on just savings alone, there's a predictable objection at the end, which is, well, the savings aren't good enough. So getting it early in the conversation that, people that go solar with nothing down, it's not about saving money so much as controlling against what Maytal said, which is rates going up and you're going to have that electric bill.
Right. So in an instance like that, it would be kind of about expanding the customer's perspective if that was the main issue that they had. I'm going to ask one more thing for Matal quickly. Going back to that plan B where video conferencing is not available. Actually, I think Elliot could answer this too. Does Aurora generate a final PDF proposal that can be sent to the customer for review, in an instance where that face-to-face, even if that face-to-face video is not available?
Yeah, I can take this one. Yes, Aurora does have proposal PDF generated as well, which are customizable. So if you want to actually pitch off of that proposal and have that in the conversation, so you walk through it with them, that is a definite best practice. And whether you want it to be 3 pages, 5 pages, 10 pages, that's up to you.
Okay. We had one more question about the imaging. How would that software work in areas where there's only low-res Google Maps images?
Yeah, so in certain remote areas where Google doesn't have great image quality, one of the things that any remote solar design software right now faces is you're not going to have a super high resolution image. So one of the things in Aurora is you can upload your own custom image from a drone, but maybe right now you're not actually driving out there. That's the whole idea of remote sales. So what I would say to that is you can actually model in Aurora. It's creating a semantic 3D model. So if that image is skewed, you're at least confident that the Aurora model that you've created is proportional and accurate to itself. And that way, you're able to accurately know that the roof pitch and that the panel placement is going to be proportional. So other software just top down that I've used in my past, I would map out the roof and it was skewed and that was just off from the get-go. So that's certainly something that in remote areas people face. But it's one of those things that can be overcome with either custom imaging or designing the model to the best of your abilities and knowing that it's proportional.
Okay, very good, very good. This next one is going to go to Matal. Someone wanted to know that what to do when their client's issue isn't necessarily with the changed sales practices or even your approach to begin with, but just the disruption that has been thrown in their lives by the virus. Maybe they're just putting things off because they don't know how soon we'll be able to get back to normal. And so they're saying that when this is the response and it's just kind of that wall of we need to return to normalcy, what they're doing is they're just maintaining the relationship without necessarily pushing the sale, just keeping that channel open. Is there anything they should be coupling with that practice of keeping the relationship open, or is that kind of how we're limited at the time?
Well, you obviously need to use your best judgment on person to person. Some people, they do want you to stay in touch and they want new information about the solar industry and about their specific system that you've been proposing. And then some people, they just want a caring community member to check in on them every week. And how's it going? And do you have someone to bring you groceries? You can be that person. That's okay. That's not as long as you keep it appropriate, obviously. But I do have a lot of customers right now that are elderly and self-quarantining, and their health is their first priority. I think the appropriate thing is for you and your organization to let them know that their health is also your organization's top priority, and we will not push or pressure them into a sale, and we will be waiting and ready for them when and if they are ready. And it's also good to let your customer know what safety precautions your crews and your surveyors are being trained on taking. And that's going to be key so that people feel comfortable, and if your organization doesn't have new safety protocol yet, that would be your next step in retraining your surveyors and retraining your installers on how to get to your job sites, when and where to communicate with the customers, and how to install and maintain that social distance level. So that might put some of their fears to rest.
Right. And actually, you do bring up that you're going through any safety precautions that the company is operating under. That raises the question of generating leads. So now that, door-to-door knocking isn't really an option, what would you see as practices to generate leads during this time?
Well, you want to work your referral base and have a good referral program going. A lot of people they're in communication with people in their community and they want something to talk about. And you want them to be talking about your service and your referral program. So I would be going over your existing book of business, be calling them, and don't call them and ask them for referrals. call them and see how they're doing. Call them and see how their solar system is operating. I would probably venture to say a lot of the customers that have been installed by us over the last few years are really happy they have the solar right now, because that's one thing that they're certain of, that their solar system is going to work. So give a call to all of your installed customers and let them know that you're here for any questions that they may have. Let them know what your referral program is and see how their solar system is doing. If you do that to at least 30 people, you'll most likely in the next week get some referral calls.
Right. Yeah, I do think it is definitely a good precedent to set that you're not always just calling to sell. You're also calling to check in. Back to Elliot, we have a question here. Is the Aurora software able to show how shade might affect the design of a system?
Yes, that's one of the great visuals in our irradiance map. And when you go back, these slides will be available. There's actually what looks like a heat map showing exactly where shade occurs on the roof. You can also see on the modules itself, individually, on every module where you're getting shade, whether it's from a nearby tree or from a module. If you've tilted them up, you can see how one module may cast shade on another. So that can help decide how far you need to space them out. So shading and visualizing shading, I think, is one of the really great consultative and educational tools that Aurora provides. And it helps me when I was early on selling to know where to place modules as a sales rep, and also for homeowners to show them why you're putting modules here versus, on the south part of the roof, if you're in the northern hemisphere, where you're getting more sun here versus the north. It's really great, and maybe Maytal can talk more about that as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, so showing on Aurora, when you show the light map, and since I used to be a teacher, I tell them this is their grade, this roof here is getting a 98%. That's a solid A. So you want to, I think, use that design tool and bring in some of your own personal anecdotes to it as well. But definitely educate them on the different amount of lights, and a lot of your customers, they don't know how solar works. So you can even go as basic as, our solar panels need light, and pool solar panels need heat. And so this tool here is measuring light rather than heat. So when you're using the design tool, know who you're talking to as well. If you have a nice electrical engineer, that's probably going to annoy that person. So know your audience and use the design tool accordingly.
Definitely. Staying with you, Maytal, someone wanted to know how many touch points you typically have to see a lead through to contract or installations.
Yeah, it varies. But I would say I have some customers that I need to talk to 20 times, and it's a small system. And I have some customers that are getting nice, huge systems, and it's a 2-hour conversation, and they're ready to go and done. So it all evens out in the end. Some people are fast decision makers, and they're ready to go, and some people need a lot of your time and a lot of your follow-up and consistency. So if somebody needs that, give it to them. Know when they're wasting your time, and you need to cut your losses, though, as well. And then you're going to, as a present, you're going to also get people that are not going to take a lot of time and know exactly what they want and be ready to go.
Elliot, someone was asking if the Aurora model or the Aurora software models battery life degradation or anything on the value of storage.
So adding backup power and modeling it in the Aurora app is a top feature that we're working on right now. As far as having a battery in the proposal, because proposals are customizable, Right now, customers of mine using Aurora include a battery, whether it's a Tesla Powerwall, LG Chem. You can have information about the battery in the proposal itself, and you'll be able to actually model the backup storage in a very short time with Aurora. That is one of our top features that we're working on.
Cool, cool. It's cool to know that that is being developed and coming. One more question about the software is if you ever experience lag using it on the fly when video conferencing, because that's been an issue for at least one person.
So you want to have a good internet connection. That's definitely true. If you don't have a good internet connection, there can be lag. So that's a top priority when you're actually going into the Aurora app directly. And I feel like when you're selling remotely, you're able to control that variable easier than when going into a homeowner's house not knowing exactly what their internet setup is. So that's something that is a priority, and Aurora is optimized when you're using Chrome. So that's also a best practice as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think we have time for a couple more questions here. First one being, how do you handle the pricing aspects of the sales conversation if you're redesigning a system on the fly? And that would be, in front of the customer on this type of video conferencing.
So every organization is going to have their own pricing ability. If you do not want your customer to see how you're pricing your system, you need to know how to not share that screen using your video conference tool that you've chosen. And so that goes to knowing that video conference tool like the back of your hand, whether it's Zoom or GoToMeeting or Teams or whatever it is. There is a way to price the system out without your customer seeing you do that work. I personally like to show my customers how I'm pricing it out so that they can see full transparency, but not everybody does. So you will have the ability to share your screen and not share your screen as well. I'm not sure if that answers that question, but I think and I hope it does.
Yeah, I think that should answer that question. We probably have time for one last question here. Elliot, I know there was a question earlier. This might be quick, so it might give us time for another one. Does basically an overview of how many different types of panels that the software takes into account, or does it just kind of use a general sizing and power density?
So Aurora has a database of modules, inverters, microinverters, power optimizers, over 10,000 different types of hardware that are individually spec'd out. And one of the first things, if you're new to Aurora, that you want to do is go into the database and favorite the modules and the inverters that you use. You just click a box, it checks it off, and then when you're designing, it'll pop right up. So that's all in there. You can even add a price, your cost of the module that will actually start when you're pricing out different types of hardware, and you can line itemize a project in Aurora as well. So that is, yes, we have many types of modules in there.
All right, excellent, excellent. I think that's about all the time we have today, but I would like to first thank everybody who participated in this webinar. I know we had some technical difficulties, but I would like to thank you for persevering and staying with us. I would also like to thank you both, Elliot and Mittal, for giving us your time and especially your insight. And before we go, I'm just going to run through quick the next couple of webinars that PV Magazine has planned. In partnership with Jinko Solar, we have bifacial modules with transparent backsheet, performance, reliability, and insurance. That is Thursday, April 9th, 2020. It's going to be 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. GST, 3 to 4 p.m. CET, which means 5 hours before that. Let's see how good my math is. That begins at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 Pacific. This webinar will be discussing durability testing results for transparent backsheets, bifacial reliability data, and comprehensive insurance for PV systems. We'll be adding more and more webinars due to the situation at hand with our partners on the latest topics. You can check out our webinar programs at the link provided. Once again, I would like to thank everybody for showing up and wish you all a good day and to remain healthy.